This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. Positive results. That's what the finance minister says that increase in VAT is now yielding. Plus, the transport minister says harsher traffic penalties to be tabled in Parliament in the near future. And the Public Hospitals Authority gets $3 million to cover overtime payments.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping news. It's been 10 months since the Minutes administration implemented an increase in value-added tax from 7.5% to 12%. And while there were a few setbacks, Finance Minister Peter Turnquest said the country is now starting to feel the positive effects.
Right now, we are about 60%, 63% of our expected revenue yield. And that had a lot to do with the fact that we had the concession period where we gave the hotels, the construction, some time to run out the contracts that it already began or had been already committed based upon the old 7.5 rate. That has all been done as of January 1. And so we start to see the true implementation or the true effect of the new VAT rate. And that has been very positive.
The government caught quite a lot of heat after the increase in VAT, particularly after the F&M ridiculed the previous Christie administration for implementing it.
So we're very pleased that it's performing the way we expected it. We expect that to continue into the new year and yield the kind of results that we expected.
On Friday, the Minutes administration marked its second year in office. While he said there have been some up and downs, Turnquest said financially, year 3 will be better.
I believe it's going to be a very positive year. The amount of projects that have been announced and are set to take off this year, as well as those that are still in the pipeline and will be announced shortly, I think gives us a good steady flow of developments that is going to support this economic growth that we've seen over the last 2 years.
While they are on the opposite ends of the political divide, the opposition and government have recently found common ground when it comes to increasing penalties for motorists who kill in the course of dangerous driving. Transport and Local Government Minister RENWARD says the Minutes administration is in the early stages of doing just that. Our Jasmine Brown has that story.
We do have legislation that is out for consultation, an entire Road Traffic Act, where some of those issues are addressed. That legislation is out for consultation, and I'm looking to get that back probably in about a week or two. The Attorney General's office has looked at it.
Earlier this month, opposition leader Philip Brave Davis called on the Minutes administration to revamp the entire road traffic regime. Davis and former Transport Minister Glenys Hannah Martin have both called for the government to add an amendment to the Road Traffic Act to increase penalties for those who kill in the course of dangerous driving. The opposition MPs have underscored the fact that the bill to amend the Road Traffic Act, which is currently before the Senate, criminalizes using a cell phone while driving and driving without a driver's license, but does not address the serious charge of killing in the course of dangerous driving.
The legislation would bring harsher penalties, and we might decide that it should be even harsher than the penalties that currently exist. And that's why I said we're in consultation with the it's out for consultation, and based on the feedback that we get, we'll be able to move forward in the direction that the government deems fit.
The Road Traffic Amendment Act 2019 was passed in one sitting of Parliament on March 26 after being tabled last September. At the time, Hannah Martin criticized the government for failing to enact legislation drafted by the former Christie administration, adding the Minutes administration chose to use certain parts of it. Wells says its ministry is currently looking at legislation drafted by the former administration.
It's legislation that the former administration had gone through and crafted and put together, and as a new administration, we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We are looking at those, both the Road Traffic and the Merchant Shipping Act and other aspects of our domestic maritime sector, and but those pieces of legislation, even the Merchant Shipping Act, is out for consultation with the industry so that we can look and say, this is good legislation.
Currently, people who kill in the course of dangerous driving pay a maximum fine of $10,000. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis last month called the penalties insulting, as he insisted they needed to be beefed up. His comments came after a U.S. report cited traffic fatalities as a major concern in advisory, noting there was a 29% increase in traffic-related deaths from 2017 to 2018. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks a lot, Jasmine. Well, Minister of Health, Dr. DUANE Sands, said the Public Hospitals Authority has been given nearly $3 million to assist with its overtime payments for healthcare workers until the end of the fiscal year.
We had long exceeded the annual budgetary allocation for overtime, inclusive of all grades of staff. And because we didn't have the financial or fiscal headroom, it created a problem in terms of when we could possibly pay. We're happy to report that we have now gotten additional financial allocation to deal with overtime up until the end of the budget year.
Sands said they have funded appropriated overtime, and certainly moving toward the end of the fiscal year, the challenge that they had will be remedied by budgetary allocations to deal with it.
Moving into the new budget cycle, then even as we work to control overtime charges, at least we will have to allocate a more realistic dollar amount, considering the human resources limitations, the fact that we're running capacities over 100%. And I say that because you have people that are boarding in the emergency room and elsewhere.
The health minister said overtime will continue to be an issue as long as understaffing is a problem.
These are challenging times in terms of having the human resources to care for persons. Bear in mind that the hospitals are open 24/7, 365. We don't take a break.
Well, still ahead tonight, Grand Bahamians still hopeful for the OBAN project. We'll tell you more when our News, the Weekend Edition, returns.